Good morning, students. I'll be teaching you English, and today we will start with the first chapter of your English literature. I'm sure you all must have got your Treasure Trove short stories book with you. I want you to open to page number 47. We'll be starting with the chapter Old Man at the Bridge. Now, you have to understand it's a nice chapter. This chapter or the story is about an old man and about the Civil War. Now, remember, we are talking about a war and the tragedy of war. How these wars they can actually be harmful, right? It's a nice story, and here it is written by Ernest Hemingway. Now, Ernest Hemingway here in this chapter is acting as a war correspondent. He's a soldier, he's covering the whole Spanish Civil War, and it is his duty to see the advancement of the enemies. Now, this narrator, or Ernest Hemingway, he was there and he was looking towards the Ebro River. Now, remember what they have done is they have this pontoon bridge, right? That's a temporary bridge, and people they are crossing the river so that they can come to the safer side of the land. Now, while this whole scene is taking place, this war correspondent, Ernest Hemingway, he's standing there and he's watching the crowd clearing the town. He's there, he's looking for the enemy advancement, and he's also looking towards the people who are moving out of that town. It was his duty to make sure that each and every person is safe and sound. Now, here, while he was looking at everyone, there was this old man. He was sitting on the pontoon bridge, on the side of the bridge, of course, and he was pretty old. And the way he was dressed, uh, nobody could actually make out that he had animals, or he was a kind of a family man. So this Ernest Hemingway, or the narrator, he goes up to him and he questions what's like, where are you from, where are you headed towards. So this old man, he was wearing all dirty clothes, they were ragged, and he was wearing a steel rimmed spectacles. His clothes were very dusty. He was around 76 years old, and he had already walked 12 kilometers. So this poor old man was very tired. He was very tired, and he was in no condition to move any further. Now this narrator, he tries to talk to him to know about his whereabouts, and he really wanted to know whether he has got a family, or whether he is willing to move ahead or not. But this old man, we can see that he symbolizes, or he actually represents the victims of war, the people who actually suffer. Now, you must have seen when there's war, this common people or the civilians, they are the ones who suffer. They have no idea about why this war is going on, what's the reason. They're only the victims, and they suffer a lot. They're the ones, the common people, they suffer a lot. The same thing is happening here. You can see there's a war going on, and these soldiers, they are just trying to move the people to a safer place. And there are some people who are struggling. They have to leave their house, they have to leave everything behind, and then move out of the town. In the same way, this old man, he's got no family, but from the chapter you'll get to know that he has got some animals that he was taking care of. Now these animals somewhat here represents his family as well. It becomes very difficult for a person to leave his family behind and run away. Now, this old man, he was forced to leave his town because of artillery, right? Because of heavy firing and all, because of this war. But the problem is that he had to leave his animals behind. Now, there are three kinds of animals. The first one is the pigeons, right? Pigeons, again, this symbolizes peace. Then the second one, we have a cat. Now this cat talks about freedom, independence. And the third animal that they have mentioned here are two goats. Goats again represent sacrifice. Now the whole story is about the futility of war, how these wars, they can be painful for the common man, right? So in wars, there's no one who is actually winning, but there are common people who are actually losing a lot, right? So we'll read this story and you'll get the idea what this chapter is all about. Finally, what happens is this narrator, he tries to convince this old man to move out of the town. But this old man, he's feeling guilty of leaving his animals behind, and somehow he's not ready to move out, right? Even when narrator tells him that there's, when you cross the bridge, there are trucks there and they can take you to a safer place in Barcelona. But this old man, he says that I know no one there. There's no one in Barcelona whom I can go to. And he refuses to move any further. So finally, in the end of the chapter, you'll see that everyone has left the village. Nobody is left there except this old man who's not ready to move. Although narrator, he tries. This old man, somehow tries and he stands, but again, he is not in a condition to move any further. So this narrator, he has to leave him behind. He leaves this old man to his fate. And somehow he feels that he'll be safe because it was the Easter Sunday and there were too many, it was actually overcast day and the planes of the enemies were not even seen. It was difficult for them to fly. So somehow it was okay. And finally, the narrator, he has to leave the old man to his fate, right? So let's continue with the chapter. Old Man at the Bridge. It is page 47. I want you to read the introduction of the author as well, please. On page 47, they have given a small introduction. It's better if you go through it and you'll always find one or two answers in it. So please do not ignore this part of your chapter. Go through it and read it. See, it says here, I'll read it. Ernest Miller Hemingway was an American novelist, short story writer, and journalist whose simple and understated writing was a strong influence on the 20th century fiction. One of the shortest of Ernest Hemingway's short story, Old Man at the Bridge, is based upon an incident that took place during an Easter Sunday stopover at the Ebro River while Hemingway was a war correspondent. Remember, Hemingway, your author, he was the war correspondent. Okay, so that's the word that you need to remember. He was a war correspondent covering the Spanish Civil War. Old Man at the Bridge demonstrates the power of narrative art. It's a kind of a narrative story. So because of the narration only, you can understand what's the backdrop, what's the story all about. Hemingway takes a small, ordinary detail in a situation and through the art of storytelling transforms it into a powerful story about the tragedy of war. Yes, of course, this story is completely about the tragedy of war. The old man becomes a symbol of countless civilian victims of war. Underline it and you should remember this. So what this old man symbolizes? He symbolizes the countless civilians, victims of war. These common people who are the victims of war. They have no idea about politics. They know nothing about the wars, but they're the ones who suffer a lot. Those without politics, displaced, disoriented, and alone. He is faced with the inevitability of death. So this old man, he's suffering all because of these wars and he has no idea about politics. So again, remember that. Turn to page number 48. We'll start with the chapter now. An old man with steel-rimmed spectacles. Steel-rimmed spectacles, I hope you understand. We're talking about the rim of the spectacles. It was made of steel and very dusty clothes. So he was wearing very dusty clothes, sat by the side of the road. There was a pontoon bridge across the river, and carts, trucks, and men and women, and children were crossing it. Pontoon bridge, understand, it's a temporary kind of a bridge that was made by them, by the soldiers, so that the people they can actually cross the river. The mule-drawn cart staggered up the steep bank from the bridge with soldiers helping push against the spokes of the wheels. Now these soldiers, they were there, they were somehow pushing the carts across the river so that people they can just cross the river and they can be safe at a safer place. The trucks ground up and away heading out of it all. So there were trucks on the other side of the river and they were from there they were taking people to a safer place. Out of it all, and the peasants plodded along on the ankle-deep dust. But the old man sat there without moving. He was too tired to go any further. Remember this line. Why this old man was not moving? Because he was too tired to move any further. It was my business to cross. Remember, this is, you'll get, you'll hear this word again and again, remember. So when I say remember, that means I'm talking about something that is important for you. So it was my business to cross the bridge, explore the bridgehead beyond and find out to what point the enemy had advanced. So it was the duty of the author, Ernest Hemingway. And Ernest Hemingway was a war correspondent. I did this and returned over the bridge. There were not so many carts now and very few people on foot, but the old man was still there. So he could actually look and he was taking care of the people that, okay, now they're moving out of the town. Everyone was moving out. There were very few carts left and few people, they were just walking by. But this old man, he was sitting there and he was not ready to move. Where do you come from? I asked him. We are talking about the narrator. From San Carlos, he said and smiled. That was his native town. So this old man belonged to a particular town that was San Carlos. And so it gave him pleasure to mention it. And he smiled. I was taking care of animals, he explained. Oh, I said, not quite understanding. So it was difficult for the narrator to understand that this old man who's wearing dusty clothes and is in a miserable condition was taking care of animals. Then he says here, yes, he said, I stayed, you see, taking care of animals. I was the last one to leave the town of San Carlos. He did not look like a shepherd, nor a herdsman, and I looked at his black dusty clothes, and his grey dusty face, and his steel-rimmed spectacles, and said, what animals were they? He really wanted to know what kind of animals they were. Various animals, he said and shook his head. I had to leave him. I had to leave him is filled with guilt. Remember, old man was not at all happy to leave his animals behind. I was watching the bridge and the African-looking country of the Ebro Delta and wondering how long now it would be before we would see the enemy, and listening all the while for the first noises that would signal that ever mysterious event called contact. And the old man still sat there. So he was this Ernest Hemingway. He was looking for the enemy advancement or for the first sound of the gun that will tell him that yes, enemies, they have advanced. And while he was doing that, this old man was still there. What animals were they? I asked. Now remember, narrator, he's being nice, he's being kind towards the old man. There were 3 animals altogether, he explained. Remember again, there were 2 goats and a cat, and then there were 4 pairs of pigeons. And you had to leave them, I asked. Yes, because of the artillery. Why he had to leave his animals behind? Because of the artillery, because of the heavy firing. The captain told me to go because of the artillery. Why these people, they were actually leaving the town? Remember again, because of the artillery. And you have no family? I asked, watching the far end of the bridge, where a few last carts were hurrying down the slope of the bank. No, he said, only the animals I stated. The cat, of course, will be all right. A cat can look out for itself, but I cannot think what will become of the others. Why cat can look after itself? It's free, it is independent, it can actually jump and move around. What politics have you? I asked. I'm without politics, he said. Remember again, I'm 76 years old. I have come 12 kilometers now, and I think I can go no further. This is not a good place to stop, I said. If you can make it, there are trucks up the road where it forks to Torsa. I will wait a while, he said, and then I will go. Where do the trucks go? Towards Barcelona, I told him. I know no one in that direction, he said. But thank you very much. Thank you again very much. The old man, he directly said no somewhat to the narrator when he talked about or when he told him that there are trucks which will take you to a safer place in Barcelona. But the old man, he said directly that I know no one in that direction. He looked at me very blankly and tiredly, then said, having to share worry with someone. He was tired, but he was little relaxed. Why? Because he got someone with whom he could actually share his problem. The cat will be all right, I'm sure. There is no need to be unquiet about the cat. But the others, now what do you think about the others? This old man was, he was filled with guilt of leaving his animals behind. He was very worried about his animals, and we can see that, right? So here he's again questioning the narrator that what will happen to my animals. While they'll okay, he says why they'll probably come through it all right. You think so? Why not? I said, watching the far bank where now there were no carts. But what will they do under the artillery when I was told to leave because of artillery? So this old man, he's again repeating it. He is in pain. He's feeling sad about his animals. He says that, what do you think so will happen to them when I was told to leave the town because of the artillery? Did you leave the dove cage unlocked? I asked. Yes. Then they'll fly. So remember, the dove cage was open. That means the pigeons, even they can fly. Yes, certainly they'll fly. But the others, it's better not to think about the others, he said. The old man was worried about the others. Now remember, the dove cage was open, so the pigeons can fly off. The cat can take care of itself. Now who's left? Two goats. And they're the sign of sacrifice. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm sorry. Yes, okay. If you are rested, I would go. I urged, get up and try to walk now. Now, again, the author, he tried to move the old man, but the old man was too tired to move. Thank you, he said and got to his feet. Swayed from side to side means he moved a little bit like this and then sat back downwards in the dust. I was taking care of animals, he said dully, but no longer to me. I was only taking care of animals. So he was only repeating the line. He was now no more talking to the author. The old man was in a shock kind of a state, and he was only repeating the lines. There was nothing to do about him. It was, okay, remember, it was Easter Sunday, and the fascists were advancing towards the Ebro. It was a grey, overcast day with a low ceiling, so their planes were not up. I'm sorry. So it was a day when it was all cloudy and dark, because of which their planes were not at all in the air. That and the fact that the carts, and I'm sorry, not the carts, it's cats, that cats know how to look after themselves was all the good luck that old man would ever have. So what was the good luck that this old man had? First, his cat will take care of itself, and the pigeons, they can fly off. Apart from that, there was one more good thing, that it was a cloudy day, so the planes of the enemies, they were not there in the air, and this old man was somewhat safe. The other, he couldn't do anything else, so he just left him to his fate. Now, it's a nice story. I really want you all to go through it once so that you know what this story is about. Read it, right? I've explained it. There are no difficult words that you won't understand. It is easy. And remember, please don't leave the introduction as well. Regarding your workbooks, if you have your workbooks, please go through the explanations there as well. So that is it for today. The rest I'll explain in the next video. Thank you.